next one. Now, this is... I lost the guy's name, unfortunately, but someone on the last fan questions episode asked about agents and which were your favourite and least favourite agents. And we did it on the last one, and it ended up taking an inordinate amount of time from the episode to the point that we couldn't get through the entire list. You got through all of the WWE agents, or most of them that you work with anyway, but I wanted to bring up some names from elsewhere, TNA and WCW to be specific. So we won't spend a ton of time on this, obviously, but we've got quite a few names here, and we're going to go with TNA first. So the rankings, once again, are A, B, C, and D. I had to think about that in that order. And, you know, A is amazing, D is absolutely useless or self-serving, B is pretty good, C is going through the motions or not helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe D is actually actively working against you, let's say. First name is Terry Taylor. Was he actually an agent in TNA, or was he back office staff in another capacity?
He did agent some matches I had in TNA. I would say Terry was an A. He was really easy to get along with like that. He would bring stuff up. Like I said before, sometimes you bring up stuff and you say, you know what, people haven't done in a while, and there's a reason why. But then Terry would bring up stuff that, yeah, let's rehash that. That's a good idea. And Terry was definitely, at one point in the wrestling business, a complete prodigy. Right there in the mold of a Ric Flair or something back in the UWF days, and then even going to WWF, and that kind of, from what I heard, kind of hurt him in the locker room, wanting to be Ric Flair, and they tended to cut his suits up and his pants and things like that. Those were ribs back then. But talking about him as an agent, he was my agent sometimes in WWE as well, and in TNA. So I have two different companies. So I would put him in an A for personal relationships as well. You know, he was always very good to me in TNA as far as, you know, trying to give me opportunities, him and Vince Russo. But Terry, I'll tell the story. I was working Abyss on a house show. I believe it might have been either Scranton or Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm not sure. It was somewhere in Pennsylvania. And he said to me, I was working Abyss, and he goes, all right, we need to get this done in 8 minutes, or you need to go 8. And he goes, but you got to put him over. If you go home early, that's fine. I go, yeah, you know what? I can do it in 6. And he goes, I dare you to do it in 5. Oh, okay. You want to name that soon? Okay, I can do it in 3. And he goes, how about 90 seconds? I said, brother, no way. 2 minutes. 2 minutes is all I need. So I won 2 minutes with Abyss. We had a flash finish out of nowhere. Came back, and they were like, he was like, I thought you were going to go 6. I go, what was the game we were playing before the match? I thought you were serious. You wanted 2. You know, it's like Barry Horowitz. Barry Horowitz would have said, they needed 15, brother. The people were into it. And I was like, people know he's winning. So, man, if he could have pinned me at the stage before even going through the people, I would have had that happen.
Next one, Jim Cornet. Once again, I don't know if he was an agent per se. He was part of the booking committee.
Well, Jim was one, just like anybody in the lot. You know, the only person I really didn't feel like I had access to at times was Dutch, because maybe he was hiding like I used to hide in WWE. Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. But Jim, when I would see Jim, I would ask him, and here's the thing, with the Dr. Stevie character, he didn't like the Dr. Stevie character to some extent because it was Russo's idea or there was something in there, but he always got along with me as a worker and always gave me good advice and never had a cry. I mean, he wasn't as angry as he usually is in like retrospect talking about it, but I'm sure stuff was bothering him, but he never took it out on me. But I could tell that he wasn't, and I don't think Dutch was a huge fan of the Dr. Stevie character as well, but he was a big fan of Abyss. I was there to get Abyss over, so therefore, you know, but Dutch and Cornet, anytime I would try, which was more Cornet, of course, if you have a Cornet walking by a Terry Taylor or anybody, you try to get that knowledge from them and get a little piece that you can add to your match to make it better. Oh, I would Cornet. Cornet would probably be, because he was also a promoter, a booker, and all that stuff, just by default and by the territories he ran and what I see him create in Smoky Mountain. I would also give him an A.
D'Lo Brown.
Never had him as an agent, so we're going to have an N/A, not applicable for that. But he was an agent in TNA. He needed an agent in, like, AJ Styles match. This is early weekly pay-per-views, and he even had an angle with AJ on TNA at that time. Hey, and now is he still an agent with TNA? Because he was in the new version for a while as well. He was actually the guy, wasn't he head of talent relations at one point where he was booking people? And then they let him go, and
I
Dreamer.
have no idea.
He was, and then they let him go, and then Dreamer kind of took that spot over.
He is signed with TNA Wrestling. He is currently a producer. So yeah, he's still there.
They brought him back because he went home for a little bit. So good for him. Yeah, they obviously can't be a bad agent if he's still there. And that's not I don't know how TNA works, but TNA didn't have that, like we talked about with Regal when he looked at the agent and the agent didn't stick up for the business that the agent gave them. The agents tend to like just self-preservation wise, throw you under the bus and bury you to keep their own job. I never knew D'Lo to do that. So I put him in a B just because just from reputation and what I hear and the fact he's still doing it, but I don't have any personal experience.
Road Dogg.
Same thing. But Road Dogg's now writing SmackDown. So he obviously knows how to book. He knows how to get a match together and everything. So just by default, I would put him at a B as well. With the personal working experience, that's what differentiates a B from an A.
Savio Vega, which I don't know if Savio was working with the women more at that time.
I never worked with Savio.
He was with the company at the same time as you, though, I think.
I never saw him. He probably was. Wow. Probably was, but I don't know.
Now, this is more of a producer role, I guess, for the backstage stuff rather than the wrestling, but Jeremy Borash.
Jeremy did a lot of Dr. Stevie interviews, and he was great to play off. A very, very mean Gene Okerlund type of, to be able to kind of just call audibles or improv it as you go back and forth as a backstage interviewer. And actually as a producer with all that Broken Hardy stuff and what they do now, you can tell the difference when Jeremy Borash and Jimmy Paradise are producing like the Aleister Black, like remember the storybook thing, the vignettes, they did that. So I would give him an A. In the vein of producing a promo and leading an interview to go in the right direction.
Disco Inferno.
Never worked with him. I can assume there'd be a lot of backhanded compliments and sarcasm and cynicism. So that's an NA. I don't know. Hey, Russo speaks highly of him as an agent, and I'm sure he has a really good mind for the business, but I never experienced anything like that with him.
Now, this one, maybe not as well. Hector Guerrero.
No, but excellent commentator. He's part of the Spanish announce team in TNA, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, he's a Guerrero. He has to know exactly what he's talking about and be able to deal with. So by default in Family Legacy, I have to give him a B. Even though, like I said, no personal... I've talked to Hector, obviously, but never within the confines of putting a match together.
Shane Douglas.
Never had him as an agent either.
Really?
He preceded my time. He was in the early days of TNA.
Did he never do anything for like Extreme Rising or something where he was dealing with your matches?
He was one of the promoters. Shane was one of the promoters with Steve O'Neill in Extreme Rising when it was originally Extreme Reunion. Now, obviously, Shane's a friend, and Shane is going to give me his honest opinion, or I'm going to ask him for an honest opinion or what he thinks. So I confided in Shane as a peer with more experience. So, but he was an agent in TNA for a while, also backstage interviewer. And also he helped out with the booking or did all the booking in Extreme Rising. So I would give him a B on that. I'm just setting him up I'm trying to make him go into a false sense of security. So I want to steal his YouTube channel. So just remember that, Shane. I got a good Shane Douglas story about Extreme Rising. Want to hear this? People politic.
No. We actually don't because we're doing an Extreme Rising show in the future soon.
It's gonna be one of the. It has to do with a shouting match between Shane Douglas, Luke Hawk, and myself for all the opposite reasons that a pro wrestling argument happened. So
it's probably because you wanted to put somebody else over.
Yeah, the argument. It was a huge argument. We'll save it for that episode.
Oh yeah. We've had quite a lot of questions about Extreme Rising as well. So, of which you were the champion of, I believe.
I was. I killed that territory.
There's.
Well, here's a hint. I was kicking and screaming to not win that belt.
You should have done that in WWE. You could have been the champion.
Well, I was tempted to do the Bob Holly. Give me the effing belt on a piece of paper.
Simon Diamond.
Never had him as an agent.
Oh, God. This turned into a bit of a disaster.
No, but you're talking about people that have a history in multiple companies as agents. So obviously, either they're really good politicers, which they are, or they can do the job and they can politic to keep the job. He asked me, I'll give you a story about Simon Diamond. He asked me, they had a Crockett Cup tournament a couple of years, maybe 3-4 years ago. It was when I lived in Georgia. And he had called me to go work the Crockett Cup as the BWO and almost get squashed by a new team in the first round. And Nova and I completely refused to do it. Besides the fact we didn't know, like, I was still teetering between, my back and all this other stuff was going on. And I started to hit that wall with my health as far as saying, can I work at this level moving forward? And I didn't want the last thing you see of the BWO is to get squashed in the Crockett Cup. I think it was going to be the Mulkeys, too. They were making a big return.
Oh, it wasn't, was it?
Yeah. That's the only one I would do.
Jimmy Hart, which I don't even know if he was there at that time.
He wasn't, but I had some dealings with him in WCW. Jimmy's got a great reputation for being very disarming and helping out and very gregarious with everybody and helping out. And if you have Jimmy Hart standing in front of you having a conversation, you're not asking questions. Same thing goes for Kevin Sullivan. Never agent in one of my matches, but I'm going to ask him questions. And most of it is like not even backstage. It's like in a hotel lobby as we're waiting to check in or doing, you know what I mean? I get every opportunity that I can. So he was an agent. He was kind of an agent in WWE. He was definitely a real manager because he used to get Honky Tonk Man to the interviews, to the build. So he really was like somebody that managed the talent and their schedule. So that's kind of being an agent in itself.
Well, as far as advice he gave you for matches or whatever else, rating-wise, if we're going to do
B. Yeah, you got to give him a B based on legacy, based on the amount of work he's done and the amount of contributions in the business. Mine's very small, but that's only because I didn't like shadow him 24/7. If I had the opportunity, I would.
Jerry Lynn.
Never had him as an agent. Well, I mean, what do you. But
I know.
Jerry Lynn is somebody that I would always want as an agent, as a former worker that's still close enough and in touch with it. He's still an agent in AEW, correct?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I see when I see the matches, whenever I have to look at them? That they're not listening to Jerry Lynn, that they're not listening to Arn Anderson, that they're not listening to Dean Malenko, that they're doing, as Adam Page would say, I don't need advice. I'm telling you right now, at 53, I sit across from Shane Douglas, Jerry Lynn, any of these guys, I'm asking questions. I'm asking for advice. I'm not even in the business anymore, but I want information and knowledge to bring here to the show. Somebody said they don't like this. I'm trying. I'm a South Philly Italian. I'm trying. Straight jackets.
I can't believe that Jerry Lynn's over 60.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, I think, what did he tell me? He's like 62 or 61 or something.
Wow.
I'm just going to Google his age.
You want to talk about aging in reverse?
Yes, 61. He'll be 62 in June.
Oh, man. So he's been in the business like 40 years? Did he start in his early 20s or something?
I think he started in his mid-20s. He was wrestling for the AWA.
We're still talking 35 years minimum.
Yeah. Yeah, he started wrestling 25 or so.
And think about it. Jerry's style is very much like Rob Van Dam's style. To be able to pull that out and still be, I know he's had surgeries and issues, but he's still walking. He looks healthy and definitely doesn't look 61, 62 years old. Good for him.
I just find it nuts that he was wrestling for the AWA. Still, he was doing enhancement there and the WWF and stuff. And
just based on his body of work, if he wasn't an agent, he's an immediate hire as an agent. So I would give him a B.
Right. So I added one name to the end. I know he wasn't an agent per se, but I mean, I guess he was part of the booking committee at times, and Just sort of just hanging around the back and getting paid a lot of money, Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash?
Well, yeah, you wrestled him at the time, so I guess he was helping put together matches with you.
Yeah, and TNA? Yeah, I mean, obviously Kevin has a great mind for the business. He's somebody that booked in the past. And in TNA, he was very much like anybody else. It's like just kind of a stop where you can make a bunch of money. But he still took what we did very seriously. The Dr. Stevie Kevin Nash stuff was really awesome because back in my mind, it's Big Stevie Cool versus Big Daddy Cool and all that stuff. And, even when I did the little thing and, Kevin understood too that, in that match, if you watch it, literally I had him down the whole time and didn't let him get, then the minute he got to his feet, it was the finish. He understood that. Now, Kevin could have just ate me up and said, I'm not giving this kid anything, but he understood the heel at least has to get over somehow to do something. And dude, when I hooked the Cobra Clutch, the general anesthesia on him, I knew Kevin was a monster, but I never, I'm punching and headbutting and doing whatever, but I'm trying to like wrap him up and he's helping me. He's loose. And I'm like, I can't lock it in. So you see me struggling in my face. I'm like, dude, I was literally saying, dude, you're so effing big. And he goes, I know, brother, don't. He said something like big, like the Batista thing, but I didn't mean it that way. Sometimes my innocence is just too funny.
If you have to give him a rating, I know he wasn't an agent, but.
Well, I mean, for our match and what we worked and just being around him, I would give him an A. Just from the fact he could book. People, like he says, like, that thing with Goldberg that he just booked, he became booker to book himself. He's talked about it, so please check out what he said. But he's like, oh, yeah, that's exactly, you know what I mean? Like, Kevin's done plenty of jobs, and Kevin's put people over. It's fancier and it's sexier to say, big sexy. It's sexier to say that he won the business for himself, much like the William Regal Goldberg thing. It's a lot better urban legend to say this is the way to. I'm not listening to what Regal said. We're still going to believe the urban legend, and that's kind of the same thing with Kevin.
Anyone from TNA that I missed out, the agents of matches or were present at that time that you'd leave in?
I think Dixie tried to do it a couple times.
What was her advice?
Well, Dixie would try to give her ideas of who she wanted to get pushed. That those stories. She had her favorites. But I'm sure she was like, and Dutch has told these stories. Well, Dixie showed up and wanted to do this, and we had these plans, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of being an agent and a booker. For Dixie?
Yeah, in the way. Yeah, I guess so.
Nah, I'd give her an A.
No, you wouldn't. Right, WCW then. Let's go to WCW.
I still, if people want to go back and watch it, my favorite part of this ranking segment with the graphic is like when you asked about wrestlers' heights and then brought up Triple H and you're already laughing. And Chris made it like where he looked like the mini Wolverine from Deadpool.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he made him like this small. He made him like half this like Hornswoggle size.
What is it? I'm the only person who doesn't watch these shows back, You and obviously Chris has to, and you watch them back as well. And I'm just like, did he? I didn't know that happened on this thing that I'm in.
I watch them back in the background, but I want to look at the video, the audio, and how I control. I'm always tweaking the EQ and doing stuff that probably people don't even notice.
That's why I just can't stand myself, so that's why I don't watch them. Right, WCW are going on now. So, once again, just name some people if I don't have them on the list. Mm-hmm. Paul Orndorf.
I had him maybe once during my, the incredible Stevie Richards era in WCW that lasted 4 months. I did work at WCW Worldwide where they did months ahead of time at Universal Studios, and all these guys were agents in one way or another. Paul agent in one of the matches. We go to a place called the War Room, which is like not Gorilla, but where you talk over the match, or where they have it's kind of production office, I guess. They had the computers from my recollection.
But it's not just behind the entrance. It's somewhere else.
No, it's somewhere different.
Building.
I think the War Room is where they put together everything, like a production office is my guess. Sometimes it would be connected. Sometimes it'd be completely different. And in Universal, I think they just had offices and stuff and rooms. Paul agent in, I think, a match I had, tag team match against Harlem Heat for Worldwide. And they didn't air any of these because I left the company not too long after that.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't air anything that we did. I even wrestled, what's called? Japanese wrestler. Oh my goodness.
Not Muta.
Not Muda. No, I wish. God, I would get the tape of that. Who was it?
Was it NWO guy?
No, he was like a kind of a shooter guy that's still wrestling. I forget his name. He wrestled in WCW for a while.
Okay, so not
sorry.
Tokyo Magnum, not
I think we did wrestle Tokyo Magnum as partner once too. We did a lot of matches, but it was Yuji Nagata, maybe?
maybe, yeah.
Maybe
That sounds
Yuji Nagata. Yeah, I wrestled him. Paul was the Harlem Heat match. He did a great job. And of course, what do you think I ask? I ask about the heel turn with Hogan. I ask all that. I couldn't help it. I got a little bit of heat, not from him. He appreciated it, but I was just like, also like, dude, you did like the jumping pile driver like every night in the Formica, the WrestleMania 3 ring. And he's like, good Lord. You know what I mean? I think he did kind of tell a little story about the torn bicep, tricep, and he kept working, or he had the neck injury. That's what it was. And it just, the impingement. And I was like, dude, this guy's like a real, and I had no idea the flip-flop beatdown was coming in the future. Or I was the past. No, I knew about it. I actually knew about it. No, I'm sorry. I got my timeline. I'm 97. Vader was in the earlier 90s. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was 95 or so.
I'm sorry. I got it wrong.
So he sounds like he was really gracious with your questions and
yeah, well,
everything.
It wasn't in front of anybody. You know what I mean? I wasn't putting one. I would just ask him when he was asking whatever. I'd just be like, hey, Paul. And he knew when I was like, hey, Paul, I got it. You know, he's like, okay. Just one or two and I'm gone. So I did check to see if he was wearing flip-flops too.
With, well, I mean, how much of a Diesel? You didn't wrestle the fake Diesel, did you?
Oh, I did wrestle Glenn on an indie show. I wrestled.
No way.
I have the VHS.
I'm just looking at you.
I have the VHS tape somewhere here where I wrestled. It was Big Stevie Cole versus the fake Diesel, and I won.
Please find it.
And I won over.
Please find it.
Midwest Championship Wrestling, I believe.
It was Collinsville, Illinois. So I'm just looking at your match listings. So yeah, there are so many that haven't been put up because obviously they never aired, so no one could list them. Okay, right, Paul Orndorf then as an agent. If there were so many matches, I can't imagine he was giving you too much instruction.
It'd be a B because I had one match with him. It was there. I did my little guilty fan pleasure at questions, but that's about it. Jody Hamilton is the next one. Jody handled the gorilla position, whatever they called it in WCW. He never aged in the match, but he would give times and maybe just this or, you know, hey, come here for a second. Maybe you want to do this. So not technically an agent, but still, Jody Hamilton's somebody who's going to be an information source for you. It's kind of an N/A, but I know he aged in a lot of matches, or at least he was in that position. I have to give a neutral C just because I don't have anything to really hold, even from a brief whatever, I couldn't get a handle on what kind of agent he was, but they definitely gave him a lot of responsibility in Gorilla for the times and everything.
Just looking at Stevie Richards versus Johnny Polo in 97. So Raven dresses Johnny Polo?
I never wrestled him. No, that never happened.
That's weird. It's saying here in West Liberty, West Virginia, just before you left ECW.
No, that was versus Raven.
Why is it listed him as Johnny Polo then?
No, I wrestled Raven in Scranton. We had a fight all around the building in like 30 or 40 minutes. I wrestled him in a West Virginia match. I remember that too, where Raven, you know why? Because Raven acted like Johnny Polo and started doing comedy on the microphone because he was gone. He kind of went in the business for himself in that match. And I was in the Goldberg spot where I was green and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like he's entertaining, the people are cheering him, and he almost turned the crowd. And I think he wanted to prove a point that I can turn the crowd if I want to. I don't know why.
Won that match as well. Who knows?
That was real. That was a real match.
Mike Graham.
Mike Graham was good. Mike Graham was good. I'll give him a B.
I hear nothing but bad things about Mike Graham, so it's nice to hear someone say that
he was totally fine. I mean, maybe people have experiences with him in a different way, but with me, and I tend to, what am I going to do? Even the bad experiences I had with Dean Malenko, I'm not going to discount his knowledge or what he has for any personal issues. And I'm not going to go seek him out. I'm going to hope maybe sometimes he's not my agent. But Mike, and you have to think too, I'm pretty new to the company. I don't have much of experience with anybody. And you're just agent in one or two of my worldwide matches, or even maybe agent in the early, like, the match against like Riggs or the Damien 666, which, by the way, people want to see that because I give them CPR and mouth to mouth in the ring on Nitro.
We need to watch
that. But I believe, if I can recall correctly, that Damien 666 one might have been a Mike Graham agent and match. I'm not sure where he was, but they gave me the freedom to do some silly stuff like that. And I would give him probably, just on the two things that I did, let's still call it a C, because these are very brief exchanges. This isn't like a Terry Taylor. There's a Paul Orndorf where I'm well aware of his position. Mike, the family legacy is obviously you have knowledge, but I don't have the experience. And obviously it's a mixed bag from what you described. And I have heard many negative experiences with Mike.
I don't even remember writing this name down. Ricky Santana.
He was there, but I never had him as an agent. So I have to give it an N/A. Was he an agent in TNA for a short time as well?
Do not know. Maybe that's what I meant. Maybe I meant to put it in the TNA
I heard
thing.
Ricky Santana, but I'm not sure if it was WCW or TNA, that he was he had a brief run as an agent. He wasn't there for that long. Not sure.
Now, you already said this, that he didn't actually agent a match, but Kevin Sullivan, that you obviously picked the brain of.
Because anytime I was around Kevin, and I'm sure you've interviewed him, he's a wealth of knowledge, not just in wrestling, but of sports too. So you can get a good conversation going with Kevin, and just such an incredible mind for the business. I was scared to get in the ring with him. I've seen what he did in the ring. It's like, I'd rather have him as an agent. So, but unofficially agenting a career and trying to get better, these are the experiences and conversations that I'm kind of like, it's bleeding through outside of the actual arena.
Any other names that I didn't mention? Because it is hard to find agents' information, I guess. So,
well, I mean, currently you're looking at Tommy Dreamer as an agent, or
no, I'm sorry, in WCW.
Oh, in WCW. I can't think of anything. I remember, I'll just say there's people that had so much experience there, and that I knew a little bit here and there. Like, for example, Frankie Lancaster, a name from World Class Championship Wrestling, I believe, and worked. And he seemed to be a really nice guy. We sat down. He had a tanning salon with his girlfriend or wife at the time, and we were talking. And he was always like telling certain little things. And after my match, he would say, "Hey man, maybe you should do this or this." So unofficially, few of the boys would be aged, and that's the beauty of it. If the boys or your peers are going to give you positive advice, especially more experience than you have, they're de facto agents in a way. That's why Shane, not an agent, but a guy I would definitely go to and say, "Hey man, watch my match and tell me what you think."
So we've got the list of people you work with from the first go-around that we did a few weeks ago. And we need a Mount Rushmore of the greatest agents ever. I'm not sure anyone on this last list will make it, because I know you gave like Terry Taylor and Jim Cornet an A and Jeremy Borash an A, but it's like pure agents, I guess. Who would you say are the top ones? I can give you some of the names.
Well, number one, before you say a word, Fit Finlay.
Right, Fit. So we've got on the list from before Tony Gurria, Jack Lanza, Sergeant Slaughter, Pat Patterson, Fit Finlay, Brooklyn Brawler, Rene Goulet, Ricky Steamboat, Dusty Rhodes, Chief J Strongbow, which I know you don't work with, Jerry Briscoe, Harvey Whippleman, Dean Malenko, Jamie Noble, Billy Kidman, IRS, Ted DiBiase, Arn Anderson, Taz, John Laurinaitis. You stop me whenever you've got someone you think
I got, if you go back, Fit Finlay, Pat Patterson will be number 2. We have 2 more to go for the Mount Rushmore, correct?
Oh, yeah, okay. So Arn Anderson, Taz, John Laurinaitis, Michael P.S. Hayes, Bruce Pritchard, Tully Blanchard, Barry Windham, Tim Horner, George the Animal Steel, Marty Jannetty, who never showed up, Brian Armstrong, Dave Hebner, Paul Bearer, Rocky Johnson.
Two names, like I'm talking about from a personal basis, don't like care for either one of these guys, but the mind and the amount of time they spent being agents or being in some way involved with, putting matches together, it would have to be Michael Hayes and Bruce Pritchard.
Hayes and Pritchard.
That we're removing all the politics and all whatever, political stuff or anything. I'm just saying, as far as being an asset to Vince as an agent, and also Michael Hayes did a lot of work with the Hardys early on. Remember, he was part of their group. That brought them to the next level. His mind cannot be matched. His mind for the business. And you look back at Michael Hayes and his work, not a particularly good worker, not a particularly good bumper, but his mind, what allowed him to really accentuate those strengths. And that goes for all the Freebirds too. The way that he carried, as far as putting stuff together for himself, Gordy and Buddy Roberts. And I'm not saying that those two guys didn't have minds for the business, but you could tell Michael Hayes kind of gave storylines or angles or ideas and stuff like that. And obviously Bruce Pritchard came up from, basically being somewhat of what you would call an intern in the business and working his way in and doing all that stuff and having a perennial career of 40, 50 years in the business. Same with Hayes.